The recent town meeting gave the green light for a number of exciting capital improvement projects. Today, we'll take you on a tour around town and show you what they look like. Our tour is narrated by James Keast, Holliston's facilities director. James, the last time we were here, the demo was just about over. And what can we expect to happen now?
So as you can see, it's basically a vacant lot now. Some of the foundation of the building still remains, and that's actually going to be part of the parking lot that's going to end up here.
Okay.
And I don't know if you can zoom in on this poster board, but this is what the parking lot will look like. Pedestrian access will be off of Green Street. There'll be a sloping ramp that's suitable for a wheelchair to access these ADA parking spots. Additional parking will be next to those. Parking over here towards the Gulf Station, and EV parking all along the back.
Oh, okay.
There will be some sort of structure here where folks could sit down and maybe grab a sandwich from the superette and eat. So there'll be benches and maybe a cover. That's still to be determined. The slight change from this drawing that's here is that there's going to be additional parking in this space here. We wanted to maximize the parking for the lot. Right here is going to be a rain garden. So all of the surface water that comes off of this parking lot is going to collect here, and the solids will settle out and either evaporate, soak into the ground, or the overflow will then head over into this brook.
Okay. And then will we be able to go from the superette parking lot up to Green Street?
Yes.
Drive through?
So right now, the town has commissioned a traffic study to look at the timing of the signal lights, as well as what's the best way for traffic to flow. Okay. Right now it's thinking that it would come in one way through here, and then either enter into the superette parking lot or this parking lot, and then when they want to exit, they could go out to Green Street and then turn left or right onto Washington. This will be a two-way entrance here, so you have traffic coming and going. But again, that's proposed. Some additional analysis with the traffic study is needed before the final decision is made in terms of the traffic flow.
So it looks like we're going to have a lot of nice green space. We're going to have great parking for EV and ADA parking. And we're going to eliminate the problem of trying to pull out from the superette between that building and that building, which is a terrible place to pull out.
Right. Yes, and that's one of the things that the traffic study is going to look at. You know, the potential viability of just making that a one-way street. One thing I'd like to add is that the park, which is across the street, is also going through a study where there are going to be sort of some modernization and changes in the park. The bathroom building, a new, there's a current pavilion now, but an update to that.
Nice.
But the architect that's working with that is also working with the architect on this project so that all the fixturing, the benches, the roofing styles are all going to match. So basically this parking lot is going to be an extension of that park. So everything's going to look uniform and holistic in terms of the general space.
Sounds like a great plan. And when is this going to start and when is it going to be finished?
So the hope is to go out to bid for contractors for this project within 30 days. You know, we're getting late into the season, so it's not likely they're going to be able to start until the springtime.
Okay, but we'll be maybe by the end of the summer it'll be
maybe by the end of the summer it'll be functional and certainly
good.
Much better looking than what we have right here.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks. I can't wait to see what it looks like. All right.
Yep, we're looking forward to it too.
Great.
So you can see here, this is what's called a head wall. So there's actually a pipe that goes in under this tree and under this stone area, under the driveway here, under the Washington Street to the side of the Fisk building and out to a river that runs past Ace Hardware. The part of this project is to rebuild this wall and restabilize this bank with what's called riprap, large stone, prevent dirt and sediment and from the collapse of this wall in the future.
James, Blair Square is poised to be the centerpiece of what we might want to call a town common. What's it going to look like?
So this is an exciting project. Just to give you a little bit of background, we've already gone out to bid and a contractor has been awarded. We've had a pre-kickoff meeting, which is to determine the schedule, and that's being drafted as we speak. But basically, what we're planning on doing is starting either in February or March. Some of the simpler things like removing some of the dead trees and the overgrowth and brush may happen in the December, January timeframe, of course, depending on the weather.
Sure.
But the project is quite intense. So we're going to be taking this trail, and it's going to run around up towards the street,
Yep.
and then loop around and then reconnect ahead of the bridge that's down off of
Okay.
Exchange Street.
Yep.
This area here is going to be a brick paver common area, a flat spot. There's going to be an information kiosk. There's going to be a water bubbler. There's going to be a little doggy pot, they call it, for your dogs to drink some water.
Oh, wonderful.
Along the edge is going to be a granite sitting wall. So you can sit on this wall and observe the goings on at this sort of flat area.
And the granite wall is going to be made of?
Milford pink, which is kind of cool because likely that granite was obviously mined in Milford, but ran on the railway.
Okay.
That was once here,
Yep.
And it was in Boston, used in Boston. It is now coming back to be used here in Holliston. So it's being recycled, if you will,
Right.
and being repurposed for this spot. Also in this area, right about here actually, will be a pavilion where there'll be some picnic tables, or if a band's going to play, or there's going to be some sort of performances or whatnot, we'll be in this open structure area. And then through the rest of this area will be a lawn green space with some ornamental plantings. And then, of course, it'll be linked over to the new Veterans Memorial down at the other end.
Sure. Okay. Wow. And when do you think it'll be done?
So the goal is to have this completed before Memorial Day, and certainly the celebrations that would be going on down at the monument. The contractor is quite confident they'll have it done by then.
Wow. That's really going to make a big difference as a gathering place, and we have all the parking now that's figured out, which is really great.
Yeah.
And there'll be some new bike racks, I assume? Or?
Yep, some bike racks, and certainly some sitting areas. A lot of people may not realize, but there is a community parking lot right over behind the fire station.
That's right.
Off of Exchange Street. There's several spots over there. Of course, we'll have the spots along Front Street, as well. So, of course, the town just finished the work over by the Casey's parking lot.
Yeah.
And again, that will tie into this area as well.
That looks beautiful.
Yeah.
It really does. Yeah. I can see this being even busier and more functional than it ever has been.
Yeah, this spot, this trail, and certainly this spot here, gathers people from all over the surrounding areas. A lot of other communities don't have a resource such as this, and it allows for folks that have come from out of town to hike and walk and bike, and it brings people from outside of town to Holliston and helps support the local businesses as well.
I believe that there's a lot of partnerships that went on in the design and of this. Can you talk a little bit about those people?
Certainly. There are a number of people, too many to mention, but some names that stick out. Inga Daniels, in terms of the landscape design and design and layout of the park, I'll call it. Regan Andriola, who was with Beals and Thomas, who did a lot of the engineering work.
Okay.
And of course, Kevin Conley, who's this brainchild for many, many years, has seen this to this point where we are today.
Yeah.
So a lot of folks. I know that Chipman Electric is donating all their time and resources for running electrical in this in the park. And so there are a number of folks, and I apologize if I'm leaving the other folks out, but those are some names that have really put their effort forward to make this a reality.
Well, that's true Holliston fashion, isn't it? Everybody chips in.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, right.
Thanks.
Well, now we're in front of the only wastewater treatment plant in town.
Yes, we are. This is a plant that many people don't know exists. It services the schools, which is the Miller School, the Adams School, and the Placentino School.
Yep.
All have their wastewater treated at this plant.
I understand this has a lot of potential. How is this going to help our downtown?
So currently this plant has been designed for a much larger wastewater flow than it's currently receiving. And so the select board commissioned a study to determine if we take all of the flow from what's called the Village Commercial District downtown and run it to this plant, can this plant actually treat that waste and as well as the schools? And so that study is ongoing and that analysis is ongoing. But generally, it's looking like, yeah, it's possible to take that waste flow and run it to this plant.
Okay, and how big is that Village Commercial District? Where does it extend? Can you describe that for me?
So generally, it's from generally from the Hollis Street over to Exchange Street, over to Railroad Street, in that general area. I mean, there may be other parts that could extend, but it really is an area that's deemed where the most businesses are in the downtown area.
That could have a really amazing impact then on downtown.
It certainly could, because really the one of the limiting factors are, if a business were to come in, a restaurant, for example, which is really water intensive, really can't operate to a decent scale downtown on a traditional septic system. What this study is going to look for is actually the solids would remain on site on these properties in a tank, much like it is today.
Right now.
But the leaching field would effectively become this plant.
Okay.
So the solids would remain on site. The effluent would then be pumped to this plant and treated and then disposed of into the ground per DEP requirements.
Okay.
Those septic tanks would become part of the sewer district that would be formed and be maintained by the sewer district. So as a business or a homeowner that's there, they wouldn't have to worry about it, other than knowing that the sewer district would then maintain that whole process.
Take care of pumping it, right. But now, I think what happened at town meeting was that we got some money to actually modernize this plant. Is that, it needs some upgrades? Is
that's true. So regardless of whether we connect downtown or not, this plant is well over 20 years old and needs to be upgraded, modernized, needs energy efficient equipment. So the town meeting has appropriated some of that funding, as well as ARPA funds that are available, and those funds will be used to modernize this plant.
Well, so it looks like a pretty a really interesting process, because we can leave a lot of things in place but just upgrade it in terms of the Village Commercial District and still get some benefits from the use of this plant.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the added benefit of tying in downtown is we get to maximize this asset that we have.
Yes.
Which we have to modernize anyways.
Yep.
And so it's money not spent on not here, because it needs to happen regardless if we connect downtown or not. But can you imagine what that would do to our downtown to be able to have sewers there, a number of restaurants and all sorts of different businesses could consider coming to Holliston if we have this this sewer service downtown.
Yeah. Well, we'll take a few pictures inside now. We can see how it's working in there. How about that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty fascinating in there once you go in. It's a little loud, but it is quite fascinating.
Okay.
So as you see here, this is the lab. And so every day, the effluent that comes out of the buildings has to get tested in this room, where there's instrumentation that tests the pH, the amount of bacteria, and all sorts of other constituents of waste that we need to test for the DEP. This next room is the control room to the plant. These noisy machines here are air blowers. So they're taking the air and then blowing it into the biofilters, which are in the next room. And this is where most of the upgrades to the plant will take place. These blowers will be modernized, become more energy efficient, better controls on them. The instrumentation and pump controls will also be updated. This room here, you can see, this is where all the magic happens. So the wastewater comes in from the various sites, comes into this first chamber. It's called a biofilter. It basically is an area where methanol is added to the plant to create microbiological growth. And this percolation that you see, it goes on in 3 stages. So there's biofilter 1, into the back right is biofilter 2, then it goes out to another tank and gets mixed again to try to kill the bugs, then to go into biofilter 3, and then go into a UV tunnel, which is the next area basically the fourth chamber that's in that plant. And then from there it goes into pumps and then gets pumped out to the 2 leaching fields that are out by the Adams baseball field and a soccer field that's down by Placentino School.
Our last stop on this tour is the Factory Pond and the Factory Pond Dam. James, what's the dam doing in the middle of Holliston? Tell me about it.
So this dam was built, and the records indicate about 1873 for industrial purposes. So there used to be several businesses here. I think last was the Darling Woolen Mill, which burned in a fire, I believe, in the 30s. But this dam stored water to produce energy to run the equipment at the mills.
So what's going on here, though? It's pretty old.
So the dam is pretty old. It's been flagged by the state as a concern in terms of it either needs to come out, be temporarily repaired, or rehabilitated.
Okay.
The town has decided to rehabilitate the dam, and that involves rebuilding this concrete spillway, shoring up the banks, again, like we're doing over at 9 Green Street with riprap stone to prevent any possible wash through of the dam. The good news is that through many efforts over the past several years, the town has received a grant for $1 million to help repair this dam and the bridge that does cross Woodland Street.
Okay, yeah, that highway bridge right there.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, that's going to be much nicer too.
Yeah, it's going to be nicer. I mean, there's some challenges obviously with this project. This bridge on this road, Woodland Street's a very busy road. Yeah. One of the requirements of when we went out to bid for the engineering, the design engineering of this project, was to come up with unique solutions to minimize the shutdown of this road. Obviously, it can't be done during school because all the school buses run through here. Sure. So we want to come up with some unique ideas to come up with maybe a pre-engineered bridge that literally you can do the work, drop it in place, and be done.
Yep.
And so we're going through that process right now. Again, this project is probably a year or so out from actual shovels in the ground, but we're doing the design work now to ensure that this can be done in a quick and an efficient way with minimal disruption to folks in town.
Right. And I can imagine, you've got to figure out a way to hold all this water back while you're refixing the dam too.
Yeah. So part of the project's going to involve building a temporary dam, basically a coffer dam.
Oh yeah.
Metal wall that will hold the water back, at least most of it, and then the work will begin on repairing the dam itself and this spillway that you see here.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I can't believe the scope of so many of these projects we've talked about today. I mean,
a lot of exciting things going on.
Yeah, and every one of them is completely different.
Yeah.
And all has advantages, but and all involve different aspects of state and local government.
Yes.
As well as the community. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is an important project. Heaven forbid we don't want anything to happen here, and it's. It'll be needed, and it'll help beautify the area as well.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of folks come out here. I've seen folks set up easels and do paintings. Lots of photographs are taken in this this area. So again, this is improving the infrastructure in this area that will be nice for folks to come and visit and hang out and enjoy the babbling brook that falls into the spillway.
That's right. It's great. We've covered a lot today, but I know there's more in store. Tell me about, I think there's at least 4 other projects that are in the works. Let's start with the streetlights.
Right. So the town, again, received a grant to convert all of the streetlights in town to LED fixtures, which is going to be a great savings to the town. The town recently acquired the streetlights from Eversource, so they now belong to the town. Oh. Actually, this past weekend, there was a survey crew out reviewing all the fixtures in town to confirm actually how many lights we have, because believe it or not, Eversource was unclear on how many street lights were actually in Holliston.
Really?
And so we're going through doing that analysis now. Around the end of the year, we'll be choosing the actual light fixtures that we're going to be using, and then they will start being installed after we order them in the February-March timeframe. So you'll start seeing people coming around with boom trucks replacing all of these light fixtures in town.
Oh, so like the one on my street that's always blinking and not working very well is
Yes.
going to get replaced.
That will get replaced
Yeah.
with an LED. It's got a 10-year warranty, and so the bulbs will last much longer, as well as use much less electricity.
Okay, all right. And I think there's also some work being done on some of the town cemeteries.
Yes, as part of another direction guidance from the select board was to look at the town cemeteries, and especially in light of the 300th anniversary of Holliston, the celebration, is that these are very important parts of Holliston's history. And many of them are in disrepair. A number of broken headstones, trees growing up through areas that are where graves are.
Right.
So a year or so ago, I commissioned the CPC for funding and received funding to do a preservation. Now this isn't complete restoration.
Sure.
We don't want these looking brand new.
Right.
We want the patina, we want the history, but we want to repair the broken headstones. The ones that are completely covered in moss and lichen, cleaned up so you can read them, remove the trees. And so we're going to be working ourselves around town doing those preservation efforts. Most recently, there's a tomb of Jacob Miller, which is in the South Cemetery, which is across from Hopping Brook Park.
Yep.
And the wall, the facade of that tomb is falling down.
Wow.
And so wearing my Holliston Historical Commission hat, the committee went out there and took a look at it, and we evaluated that, you know what, we need to temporarily shore this up before we can have someone come in and do a complete restoration of that tomb.
Interesting.
We've already reached out to the state Mass Historical Commission about what are the proper procedures and permits required to do such things.
Wow, that's another totally off the charts expedition we've got to do here.
Yes,
My
yes.
gosh.
So there's a lot of things that we need to do and make sure that we don't disturb the remains of Jacob Miller, who's in that tomb. So that's another project that's going on.
Gosh, wow. So James, the other project I've heard about is the fire station driveway. What's happening there?
Yeah, so again, this past town meeting, we appropriated funds, as well as in Springtown meeting, to do repairs to the actual building there at the fire station. So next time you're driving down 59 Central Street, you can see the driveway, which is concrete and repaired with asphalt, is broken, is crumbled, is actually a tripping hazard.
Yep.
The front entrance is technically not ADA accessible, does not meet the code requirements. So we're redoing that front entrance ramp, as well as the ramp for the fire equipment and apparatus into the building.
Yeah.
And this isn't simple just pouring a slab. These trucks weigh tens of thousands of pounds, fully loaded with water. So it requires some significant engineering to put appropriate ramp in there. The other thing you may notice is that it's a sort of a stucco masonry facade of this building, and chunks of it are crumbling off. So we need that repaired as well. So those projects will be ongoing, and again, starting in the spring of 2023.
Okay. I think the town's going to be ready for the 350th by the time all this is done. This
Absolutely.
is great news.
Yes, it is.
Great, great. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
For the Heartbeat of Holliston, this is Chryso Lawless.